All right. I see many of you are logging on here on this wonderful, wonderful Thursday morning. If you're up here in the North Country, we've had snow after snow after snow. And I guess we're predicted at least tomorrow it's supposed to, well, snow. At any rate, it's been nice as an introduction to winter, finally by January 10th or so. Usually it happens on my birthday, which was on the 8th. So I think that's appropriate as well. We'd like to welcome you all to our health and wealth program. It's been wonderful to have Michelle. She's actually had a new addition to the family. So we're going to congratulate her tremendously. And we'll let her talk more about who, how, what. You're still glowing, which is outstanding. We appreciate you tremendously. But this is really about our commitment between myself, Adam's Wealth Group, and also Freeze Financial, about your greater picture. So about your true health and true wealth. And we think health is a massive part of that true wealth. So we just want to make sure we have a commitment to you and bettering your life in many ways, not just financially, but in others as well. Today, I want to kick it off a little bit, and I'm going to throw it actually over to Thomas at Tim's office just to say a few things about Tim as well. And I'll bring David on a little bit after that as well. So how about Thomas?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, just appreciate everyone joining us today and want to reiterate that Michelle is here for us to leverage and use. So clients of Chris's office and David's office and our office, make sure to take advantage of that because it's complimentary to you. And to Chris's point, yes, the X's and O's and the investing is one thing, but this is something completely different that we feel can enrich your lives and we're passionate about. So want to just say congratulations to Michelle. She did say she wanted an introduction of just let everyone know I'm just coming off maternity leave. I'm a mother of two and very sleep deprived. So she's self-deprecating in that regard, but I think she's going to do an awesome job. And she'll talk a little bit about just some branding changes that she's made. And so I'll tee that up and Michelle, you can go into more detail on that. But again, just appreciate you all being with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. And before we even go into Michelle, let me bring my great friend and almost brother, David Adams, on as well. So the ideation of this, myself, he and Tim, between the offices, is to really cover a bigger picture of your true wealth. And David was on that, just immediately. So he actually has the relationship and originally with Michelle. So we're very fortunate to have such a wonderful, nationally renowned nutritionist and I guess just health coach, if you will, brought to us by David. So David, a few words for you before she starts.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, and congratulations, Michelle. Lots of changes. Good to see you. Yeah, this is like Chris said. I won't say everything he said again, but just to reiterate, it's very important to us that we're looking at the holistic areas of your life, not just your wealth, and health is such a big part of that. And we've had some great sessions with Michelle and clients that have utilized her. She's worked with myself over the years, and she's also helped my father. I'm very appreciative of that. So just great information to be learned. And I think today we're talking about fasting, which the longest I've ever gone, I think, is however long I sleep, maybe 6-7 hours. That's as long as I've fasted. So I'm excited to learn about the benefits. Sorry, Chris, I took your dad joke. Sorry.
Now you did. You started right away.
But yeah, that's all I have to say. Just glad everybody's here. And yeah, we'll do some Q&A, obviously, throughout the session and at the end.
Thanks, David. I appreciate that. My mom has also reached out to Michelle. So I'm going to say there's some great testimonial, and I have these wonderful discussions with her as well because she's a wonderful, wonderful resource. But with that, no further ado, we'd like to bring you our expert today talking about fasting slowly. I just like saying that. That's another dad joke.
Oh, boy. That was pretty bad. But
yeah, I know. That was my other one.
Good.
I'll leave it at that. Michelle, I'll bring you on so we no longer have to endure these horrible dad jokes.
Oh, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. I'm not worthy of any of that introduction. I am a sleep deprived mom of two these days. So my daughter is 8 weeks old today. Don't you worry. I've included pictures of her and my son in the presentation because I know that's what you guys are here for. I'm just kidding. Today we're going to talk all about fasting. With it being the beginning of the year, and many of you probably have New Year's resolutions centered around health, I wanted to remind you of some just basic nutritional tips, just some of the foundational points that we need to remember when we're making food choices, whether we're doing intermittent fasting or no matter what kind of diet type. I don't even like that word, but what kind of nutritional journey we're on. I want to remind you of some of the basics, and then we're going to dive into 3 different types of fasting, but you're probably scratching your head going, I didn't even know there were 3 different types. I just thought about that 16-8 thing I hear everybody talking about. But yes, there's 3 different types, so we're going to talk about those. And then we're going to go into some things talking about your immune system. We're going to briefly touch on the ketogenic diet because there's a fasting component in there. And I know that's kind of a fad eating style that's going around right now. Nothing wrong with the, I don't mean fad in a negative with any negative connotation, but just kind of a buzzword out there. And then we're going to end with that immune system, talking about the immune system and how we can best support our immune system during cold and flu season. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. You guys just yell at me if you can't see my slides. I think you should be okay now. 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right, all about fasting. Let's dive right into it with some beautiful pictures of my kids. Guys, I have 2 kids. Isn't that crazy? So my older son, Oakley, that's him. He will be 2 next week. He has been the best big brother to his baby sister, Remy Girl. Her name is Remington. She goes by Remy Girl. And she is 8 weeks old, like I said today. And she is so smiley and so happy. So I'm just a proud mom showing off my babies there. All right.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be proud.
Wow, look at those cuties. Oh my gosh. We went on my godfather and my dad are pilots, and my godfather has a little 4-seater Cessna. And so on New Year's Day, we went in his little 4-seater Cessna. Oakley went on his first airplane ride, and he just thought that was the coolest.
That is. I think David is yet to go on his first airplane ride, so we want to take him too.
Oh, all right. Come on, David. We'll
I'm kidding.
All right.
I heard you, Chris. I heard you.
What you guys are here for today. Let's talk about food. So Dr. Mark Hyman, you've heard me quote him before, but he is just a brilliant guy, head of strategy and innovation for the Cleveland Clinic Center of Functional Medicine. And he said food has the power to heal us. It's the most potent tool we have to help prevent and treat many of our chronic diseases. That is super backwards from our traditional healthcare model. Let's call it a sick care model, where we go to the doctor, we get a pill to treat the symptoms versus finding out what is the root cause of what our symptoms are. Why do we have these symptoms? And let's treat that. Okay, so he says that food has the power to heal us, and I fully believe that. That's why I'm in the profession that I am today, because I've seen it work time and time again of healing the root cause of whatever it is that you have going on. And that way you're not taking a medication for the rest of your life and you're not dealing with those symptoms and just trying to manage those. You've really eliminated the symptom altogether. And food is so powerful in that nature. So let's go back to the basics. Like I mentioned, I'm just going to remind you of some of the things that no matter what style of eating you are following, these will apply. So first and foremost, healthy fats are a necessity. We demonized fats for the last 30 years, and we really need to retrain our brain to think about fat as a necessary form of calories. Okay, our body loves healthy fats. Carbohydrates should be complex. We're going to touch on the difference between simple carbs and complex carbs, and we're going to talk about what foods are complex carbs. We're going to touch on added sugar, and then I want to remind you that unfortunately the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, who monitors our food system, they're the ones that control what we're allowed to have in our food and what we have to make sure that's not in our food. They're very, very lax. You probably have heard that Europe is much stricter than America. So Europe kind of operates backwards from the FDA. The FDA says, throw the chemicals into our food, and then if we find out down the road that they're causing negative side effects, then we'll pull them out. Europe says, hold on, we're going to do it the other way. We're going to test and test and test these chemicals and preservatives, and if they have negative side effects, we will not allow them in their food, versus just allowing them in there and then pulling them out later. So they are much stricter over there in Europe. So if you go to Europe and you buy a box of macaroni and cheese and you look at the ingredients, it looks much different than a box of macaroni and cheese here, unfortunately. There are individuals that are working really hard to try and get the same rules to apply here in the United States, but until those get up to the standards that are really looking out for us, we have to make sure that we are reading the ingredient list to look at what we're bringing into our home. What are we feeding to ourselves, to our children, to our parents? And we need to pay attention to that ingredient list, because a lot of times you start getting down that ingredient list, you're going to find a lot of things that you can't pronounce, things that you don't recognize, a lot of dyes, a lot of artificial sweeteners, and that's where we're really getting into some toxicity that's creating negative side effects and problems for us down the road. Okay, that's my soapbox. Let's remember that healthy fats are a necessity, and here's why. Okay, this is a picture of one of your cells. So your body is made up of trillions of cells, and around the outside of every single one of our cells is called a phospholipid bilayer. Okay, phospholipid bilayer. Lipid's another word for fat. So around the outside of your cell, think about it like a fence that goes around the outside of your cell, and it controls what comes in the cell and it controls what leaves the cell. You can imagine that's a pretty important job, right? It keeps the cell safe, right? So if we are eating unhealthy fats to build that phospholipid bilayer, lipid, another word for fat, if we're eating unhealthy fats like fried food or canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, corn oil, these inflammatory oils, we're going to still use those fats to build these phospholipid bilayers, but that's like building a house out of foam bricks. It might look like a house, but it's not going to keep you safe. It's going to look like a cell. It's going to look like a phospholipid bilayer, but it's not going to do its job. It's not going to keep that cell safe. Okay, so from a cellular level, we're setting ourselves up for failure without eating those healthy fats. So healthy fats, avocado, guacamole, nuts, olive oil, olives, chicken thighs, grass-fed ground beef, all good sources of healthy fat. Here we go. There's a few more for you right there. These are things we want to be incorporating into our diet on a daily basis. Not all of them, but a few of them, okay? Complex carbohydrates. So the difference between a complex carb and a simple carb is the way that it breaks down in your body. Okay, so a simple carb is going to break down quickly, okay, and it's going to spike your blood sugar, give you really short burst of energy, and then you're going to crash, okay? Excuse me, you guys, I have an 8-week-old, so I've been up, so my immune system is not functioning properly, as you can see. So with the simple carbs, it's going to spike your blood sugar, and then you're going to have this crash. So look at that graph in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That's two individuals. Okay, it's the blood sugar of two individuals. The red line, that's somebody that just had some simple carbs. They had a bagel with cream cheese and an orange juice. All of that broke down like sugar in the body, and it spiked their blood sugar. So the amount of sugar in their blood went up. Okay, then their pancreas released insulin. Insulin went and got that sugar and pulled it out of the blood. So you had a big crash, blood sugar crash. You've heard of that. Okay, so that's right 240 minutes after eating. That's that 2:30 feeling. Okay, you want to take a nap, you're cranky, you crave more carbohydrates. So what do? You reach for a pack of nabs and a soda. Spike the blood sugar back up. And we do that roller coaster ride a lot. Okay? So what we do is we're just creating these spikes and drops and spikes and drops. And every time we are going through that drop, we're pulling that sugar out of the blood and telling your body to store it as fat. Okay, so if you're on a weight loss journey or you're trying to maintain a healthy weight, we have to minimize the simple carbohydrates. We don't want that roller coaster ride. What the longevity experts are telling us is that every time we spike our blood sugar, we're taking time off our life. We want to live in that green zone, okay? So that is complex carbs, healthy fat, and protein. All right, so that green line, that's the blood sugar of someone that just had a complex carb with some healthy fat. So that might have been a steak, broccoli, and sweet potato. It might have been some scrambled eggs and bacon and some berries. Okay, very little impact on your blood sugar. So you don't have the spike, you don't have the crash, you don't have that 2:30 feeling. There's nothing being told to your body to go get it and store it as fat. Okay, so when we're reaching for carbohydrates, I'm not demonizing carbs at all. We just want to make sure we're reaching for the right kind. Brown rice, sweet potato, brown rice pasta, quinoa, beans, oats, root vegetables, black rice, also known as forbidden rice, and green vegetables. Okay, all good sources of complex carbs. Added sugar. This is a major problem in the United States, okay? The average American right now is consuming 90 grams of added sugar per day. That's the equivalent of 22 teaspoons. Compare that to what the World Health Organization recommends, which is no more than 6 teaspoons or 25 grams of sugar per day. For any mamas on the call, for all kids under 2, they recommend 0 grams of added sugar per day. Think about the average American kid. Think about their food. It's loaded with sugar and dye. They want those kids to keep coming back. Okay, sugar is incredibly addictive. It's 8 times more addictive than cocaine. It lights up the same receptors in your brain as the drug, the stimulant drug. We need to be aware of how much sugar we're consuming. So if you haven't made a New Year's resolution yet, I recommend this one. Stay underneath 25 grams of added sugar per day. It's much more difficult than you think because sugar sneaks its way into everything. 16 grams of added sugar in Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, 4 grams of sugar per one serving of ketchup. It's in your tuna packets. It's in your yogurt, unless you're buying specifically unsweetened yogurt or sweetened with stevia. All right. So under 25 grams of sugar per day, and that's added sugar. So not an apple, not a banana, that's natural sugar. It's any sugar that's been added to make a product taste sweeter. Okay, you're going down the aisle of the grocery store and you're wondering, should I bring this home? Should it come into my pantry? Should I feed it to my kids? Should I feed it to myself? So I want to retrain your eyes on where to go. So first things first, you notice there's an arrow pointing towards the serving size, right? That's not necessarily because that's how much you should eat of that product. That's just letting you know that the rest of the information on this box is based off of that serving size. For example, you probably recognize this box, the brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tart box. Okay, Pop-Tarts are packaged in packages of 2, and that package is not resealable. That's very confusing. All right, so we assume that one serving is 2 pastries. Well, it's not, it's just 1. Okay, so if you were like me and every day before 4th grade you're eating 2 Pop-Tarts, then we need to double all of this information. So in one pastry, 210 calories, we don't care so much about that. Come on down to saturated fat. We really demonized saturated fat for a long time, and saturated fat we've realized is not the problem. Trans fats are very harmful for you, very inflammatory, and the FDA did recognize that, and they became illegal in 2015, so you shouldn't have to worry about this anymore, but just do a double check, okay? Come on down to the sugar. 16 grams of sugar per one Pop-Tart. Okay, remember the goal is underneath 25 for the whole day. So every day before 4th grade, when I'm eating 2 Pop-Tarts, I'm getting 32 grams of sugar in my first meal of the day. That's how quickly it adds up. The American Heart Association is a bit stricter for women. They say a max of 20 grams per day of sugar for women and 36 for men. So I'll let you guys decide which number you want to go with, but regardless, it's in everything and it adds up quickly. Let's dive into the ingredients. Okay, so in that first slide, second slide, the summary slide where I mentioned that the FDA is pretty lax on what they allow in our food and we need to pay attention to the ingredient list, here it is. Okay, there's a lot of words we can't pronounce. There's a lot of words, period. Okay, so there's a ton of ingredients in a Pop-Tart. That's red flag number 1. Red flag number 2, ingredients are listed in order of abundance. Okay, so the most abundant ingredient in a Pop-Tart is enriched flour. And then the 2nd, 4th, and 6th most abundant ingredient in a Pop-Tart are different names for sugar. Brown sugar, corn syrup, and high fructose corn syrup. And listen up. The reason they don't use all of one of those, so all brown sugar or all corn syrup or all high fructose corn syrup, is then it would become the most abundant ingredient in a Pop-Tart and have to be listed first. So they know this. The food companies, they know this. They know the mamas are walking down the aisle. They're sleep deprived. They don't know what they're looking at. They read, oh, enriched flour can't be that bad. In the cart it goes. They pull that Pop-Tart box off the shelf. They see high fructose corn syrup as the primary ingredient. Well, it might go back on the shelf. A mom might recognize that and say, oh, I don't want to bring that home. But instead, they hide it. They hide it down in the ingredient list. So we have to be informed consumers that are paying attention to what comes home. Keep coming down, we've got TBHQ. It's a form of butane used to preserve the shelf life of processed foods. There are negative side effects associated with it: nausea, delirium, vomiting, asthma. We've got an asthma epidemic going on in our kids right now, and I fully attribute it to the foods that we're feeding them. Caramel color is linked to lung cancer in rats. It's on California's list of potentially toxic chemicals. It's illegal in 2 countries in Europe, and in the rest of the countries in Europe, if you have any dye, including caramel color, in your product, you have to put a big warning label on the front. Okay. And then we've got a bunch of other things, long preservatives that keep the Pop-Tarts good through the zombie apocalypse. So just an example of why we need to pay attention to the ingredient list. Back in 2020, we got a new nutrition facts label. Really excited about that. The calories got a little bigger, don't care so much about that. But now the food companies have to be transparent about the amount of added sugar they're dumping into our products. Okay. So that makes it really easy for us to tally that number 25. If we're trying to stay underneath 25 grams of added sugar each day, we now just have to look at this line. It includes 10 grams of added sugar. Okay, so that's 10 towards my 25 on the day. Easy peasy. This number right here, your percent daily value, if we're going off of 25 grams for my math wizards on the call, that doesn't make any sense because 10 grams is not 20% of 25. Despite what the World Health Organization says and what the American Heart Association says, the sugar lobbyists still have some pull, and so they convinced the FDA to base this percent daily value off of 50 grams of added sugar. So what the FDA is telling you through this label is that it's okay to have 50 grams of added sugar every day. And that is just way too much. The World Health Organization says so. The American Heart Association says so. So just disregard this number, okay? The sugar lobbyists are powerful. Okay, now that we've got the basics, let's get into fasting. That's what you're here for, right? I'm sorry, you guys. Sleep deprived mom. Let's talk about fasting. Let's define it first. Fasting is the practice of abstaining from consuming any calories for an extended period of time. Okay, so there's a lot of confusion about, can I have this? Can I have that? Can I still be fasting if I have this? And the true definition of fasting is no calories at all. That would be water and black coffee. That's pretty much it. Okay? Abstaining from consuming any calories for an extended period of time. And there's 3 different types of fasting we're going to dive into. We're going to talk about the health benefits of each after defining each of them, and then I'm going to give you an idea of what that looks like as far as fasting goes. Okay, like a real life example. So let's first talk about long-term fasts. So long-term fast would be considered anything greater than 24 hours. So not consuming any calories for longer than 24 hours. And we're really starting to see the benefits of this. And if you really think back ancestrally to this concept, we haven't had access to food the way that we do now for the majority of human history. The majority of human history, we were hunters and gatherers. Okay, we were wandering around. Maybe we'd find some nuts or berries, and then maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, the men would go out. Not to be sexist or anything like that. That's just the way that it was. Maybe sometimes the women would hunt, and they would kill something, and they'd bring it back, and we'd feast. And then we wouldn't have a huge meal for another few days, maybe a couple weeks, but we are biologically wired up to go without food for longer than 2 hours. Okay? It's not normal the way that we have access to food, eating 3 meals a day and then all the snacks in the whole wide world that we could ever want. Our bodies actually do really well when we give our body a break from digesting food. The way that we have to send energy to our digestive tract all the time is actually really difficult for our bodies. We're wasting a lot of energy. Okay, so one of the benefits of fasting is giving your body a break from digestion. And when you give your body a break from digestion, you have excess energy for your body to use to do some other things. Okay? We call that cellular autophagy. So when you're not digesting food, right? So you ate your last meal, let's call it last night. You had dinner last night, and what is it? It's 10:30 where you are, and you haven't eaten anything today. So you've probably digested your dinner by now, and now there's nothing in your digestive tract. And so you've got excess energy that otherwise you would have been sending to your digestive tract that you can use for something else. So what your body does with that energy is it goes and looks for things that aren't quite right in the body. The body has built-in mechanisms to help repair itself. And when we're constantly sending energy to our digestive tract, those go by the wayside. So now with this excess energy, you go and you look for those cells that aren't quite right. They're not shaped quite right. And the body takes care of them. It's called autophagy. Auto, self, phagy means kill or eat. So your body goes and looks for cells that aren't quite right, and it just kills them, it eats them, self-absorbed, it's all done. Gets rid of them, heals your body of those cells. So think about cancer. Cancer starts as one misshaped cell, and then it divides and divides and divides and divides. So what if we were able to catch that cell that wasn't quite shaped correctly before it became a baseball? That's what fasting is good for. That's one of the greatest benefits of fasting. And if you know anyone going through chemotherapy or facing a cancer diagnosis right now, fasting along with traditional radiation and chemotherapy can really help and work together to rid your body of those cells, of those misshapen cells that have grown. Okay. Another thing that it's really good for long-term fasting is that we build more mitochondria in our cells. That's the powerhouse of the cells. Okay. So we become what we call metabolically flexible. So for any of us that have never done the ketogenic diet or haven't really done much fasting, we're carb burners. Our bodies use carbs for energy. That's our preferred source of energy. But your body can really use fat as energy. We just have to teach it how. So it has to build the machinery to use fat as fuel. And when we're not giving our body carbohydrates and we burn through our carb stores, then the only option that our body has during this fasting window is to tap into our fat cells. Okay, so then we start burning fat as fuel. We build these mitochondria so that we can use fat as energy. So that's why it's a great weight loss tool. Not necessarily just doing a 24-hour fast is a weight loss tool, but we do teach our body how to use our body fat as energy so that later, if we were to have a high fat meal or if we were to fast again, it's easier for our body to go right into using fat as energy. It's also known as ketosis. There's also a bunch of research that has recently come out about how fasting for 24 hours can improve your cardiovascular health by decreasing your blood pressure. So I want to remind you that if you have elevated blood pressure, that is known as the silent killer. It's because there's no symptoms and it can be as the name suggests, it can be detrimental to your health. Okay, so if you have high blood pressure, a normal blood pressure, I'll remind you, is 120/80 or anything below that. If you have elevated blood pressure and you've been told that by a healthcare professional, please take that seriously. Consider a 24-hour fast. Maybe you do this once a week. So maybe every Saturday night you have your last meal, you have dinner, and then you don't eat again until Sunday dinner. And try and improve that blood pressure. Get that blood pressure down to normal. Really take that seriously. Again, here's what that looks like. Okay, so maybe it's monthly. If this is really intimidating, you just want to start doing it once a month. If you are really trying to tackle and go after a health complication with this, something like high blood pressure, I would recommend doing it more than just once a month. Okay, so maybe once a week. 7 a.m. breakfast, 12 p.m. lunch. So you had breakfast this morning, you're gonna have lunch today, you're gonna have dinner tonight, and then we're not gonna eat again until tomorrow night dinner. And this to me seems like much less intimidating without having to go to bed hungry. So getting from tonight dinner and then knowing that we get to eat tomorrow just at dinner time, that feels really attainable. Okay, so think about implementing this maybe just once a month, that 24-hour fast, giving your body a break from digestion, letting that cellular autophagy occur, tapping into your fat stores, and then making sure that our blood pressure is at a normal level. Okay, second, let's go into the fasting mimicking diet. So for some of us, fasting or abstaining from all calories feels impossible. There is just no way that I could not eat for 24 hours. Some of you are doing that thing right now in your head. There's just no way I could do it. I wouldn't be able to make it. And I hear you. Okay, so David, I'm talking to you. The fasting mimicking diet might be the way to go. So this is a specific meal plan where you drastically reduce your normal calorie intake to help mimic some of the benefits that you might get if you were fasting completely. Okay. So when I say drastically reduce, I mean that's taking your calories down to 25 to 30% of your normal calorie intake. Okay. So we're not fasting completely, but we can still generate some of the benefits of fasting by not eating as much. All right, so here's some of the benefits. We can create decreased inflammation. As a reminder, inflammation is the root cause of about 80% of disease. Okay, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, dementia, obesity, um, high cholesterol, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all rooted in inflammation. And these are some of the top issues that we are seeing across the country. So if we can decrease our inflammation, we're decreasing our risk for all of those.
Hey, Michelle, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You know, we'll do Q&A at the end, but I get this question from clients and just people in the health community that ask, especially people who exercise a lot and work out, how am I going to get the amount of protein I need if I'm only eating 6 hours a day, or if I cut my calories 25% or 50% or 75%. So
Yes. Okay. So we'll get to the, if you're only eating 6 hours a day, the last type of fasting we're going to talk about is that it's called intermittent fasting. So we'll get there in just a second and I'll tackle that there. Here, the idea is this isn't something that you do every day, all day. And I'm going to show you two examples of how you can implement this into your daily life. And it is a challenge for sure to maintain your muscle mass by decreasing your calories this much. And so I'll talk about, let me get through the benefits, and then when we get into the example days, I'll touch on that. So other benefits: slows neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's and dementia. There's a huge study coming out. Dale Bredesen has been working on this for a long time, about the last 15 years, and he's looked at the ketogenic diet along with fasting and how that can improve our brain function if we do have signs of neurodegenerative disease. Improves your blood pressure, cholesterol, and triglycerides through decreased inflammation. Aids in weight loss, delays aging. Okay, so that's a hot topic right now. How do we live to be 100? And this is one of the ways that we can do that. May help chemotherapy work better. So again, getting those that cellular autophagy going, and may help with cancer prevention, again with the cellular autophagy, taking care of those cells that don't look quite right. Okay, so lots of benefits with the fasting mimicking diet. And here's an option of how you can implement this into your diet if true fasting just seems totally out of reach for you. So this is, look at the bottom of the slide real quick. Continue for 6 to 8 weeks. So this is only a 6 to 8 week period. This is not something that I recommend doing for all of 2024. Okay, because David, going back to your point, we want to make sure that we aren't losing too much muscle mass, and we want to make sure that we're not decreasing our metabolism because we're starving. All right, so this only is a short-term option for you, 6 to 8 weeks, and the study is really clear. If you have high triglycerides, this is one way to lower those triglycerides really quickly, okay, in just 6 to 8 weeks. So triglycerides, that's the fatty part of your blood, and if your triglycerides are high, you're at higher risk for diabetes. So this might be something that you want to consider. Okay, Monday, we eat our normal calories. Maybe that's 1,800 calories. Tuesday, we only consume that lower amount of calories, so roughly 35% of your normal calorie intake. I'm sorry, you guys. Consume 35% of your normal calorie intake. Wednesday, normal. Thursday, lower. Friday, normal. Saturday, lower. Sunday, normal. Okay? So we're not doing it across every single day. So we're not living in a major caloric deficit. Because what happens then is that we start to starve ourselves. And when we go into that starvation mode, we just start holding on to everything that we're eating. And we're not losing any weight, and we're not reaping the health benefits. So it's kind of an every other day process, with Sunday and Monday having two back-to-back days of your normal caloric intake. So on those days where we're eating our normal calories, we're making sure that we're getting enough protein, okay, getting enough healthy fat, and we're not overdoing it on the carbs. And then on the 3 days a week when we're doing those lower calorie days, we still have to make sure that we're getting the correct proportion of macronutrients. So if you come to me and you're like, hey, Michelle, I really want to lose weight and I want to track my macros to do it. Typically what I'll tell you is that roughly 45% of your calories should come from fat, 30% should come from protein, and 25% should come from carbs. Okay, so that, if that's your plan, if you're doing this for weight loss, on Tuesday, even though you're only eating 35% of your normal calorie intake, those percentages should be the same. Still, 45% should come from fat, 30% should come from protein, 25% should come from carbs. So we want to make sure that on that day where we're lowering our calorie intake, we're not just having vegetables. Okay, vegetables, you can eat a lot more vegetables because they're lower in calories and the volume would be higher. But we do have to be very diligent, as David is suggesting, about your fat and your protein. Okay, and I also recommend doing this while you do a strength training routine. Keep up that muscle mass. It's one of the greatest ways that we can extend our lifespan is by doing a strength training routine. And this way, on those days where we're consuming fewer calories, we're still strength training, so we're not breaking down our muscle tissue with the lower calories. Okay. Then the other way that we can do this, and this is more for you just want the health benefits and you're not necessarily looking for it from a weight loss perspective. 4 times a year, so once a quarter, we do 5 days in a row of just lower calories. Okay, this gives our body that break from digestion. We're doing the cellular autophagy. We're lowering inflammation. We're giving our gut a break from all the consistent digestion. We're asking it to do less. Okay, so it's less energy that we're spending. And we only do it once a year. Once a quarter. So 4 times a year. So again, more for the health benefits versus the weight loss benefits. Okay, and that way we're not really taking a huge hit on our muscle mass because it's just for 5 days once a quarter, and we're making sure again we're doing a strength training routine. When we're doing this 5 days, you can really pull your exercise back because your energy is going to be obviously a little bit lower because you're not consuming your normal amount of calories. So you don't have to hit it hard in the gym during these 5 days, but afterwards we want to make sure we go right back to our strength training routine to keep up the muscle mass. We don't have a deterioration there. All right, what you guys are most familiar with, intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding. Okay, so this is where we consume all of our calories for the day in an 8-hour window or less while fasting the remainder of the time. So for a lot of people, this looks like I ate dinner last night, I had my last bite of food before 8 p.m., and then I'm not going to eat again until today at noon. So basically, I skip breakfast every day. That's the way it looks like for most people that are doing this type of fasting. And what are the benefits of that? Decrease inflammation, prevents blood sugar swings, which are associated with elevated cholesterol, inflammation, and hypoglycemia and diabetes. Okay, so decreased blood sugar levels and type 2 diabetes. So if you are pre-diabetic or you have type 2 diabetes, talk to your doctor about implementing intermittent fasting. It is a way to help blood sugar stability, slows neurodegenerative disease, improves blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, aids in weight loss, delays aging, and then again with the cancer prevention and chemotherapy, aiding in chemotherapy. So this is the one that a lot of people are using most often for weight loss when it comes to the 3 different types of fasting. This is because every day you're tapping into what we call ketosis. Okay, so when you don't eat for 16 hours, call it, again, your body, let's say you had dinner last night, you had dinner at 7 p.m., your body has digested that meal, used it for energy by, call it, 6 a.m. this morning. So from 6 a.m. until you have your first bite of food at noon today, your body is using calories, it doesn't have any calories from dinner last night, so it has to find energy elsewhere from your body. And it taps into your fat stores, okay? Because you need energy to get up and go about your day today from 6 a.m. to noon when you've burned off dinner last night. And so it forces your body to use the fat on your body for energy. So that's called ketosis. So when you're starting to tap into your own fat stores and using fat for energy, then we're burning fat from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then we have lunch. Okay, so then you're giving your body some calories. And so we're going to use those calories. Then we're going to have a snack. We're going to use those calories, have dinner, use those. And then again, every morning it's kind of a reset where we tap into our fat stores. And so each day we're burning away at our fat stores, which is how we can lose weight. As David mentioned, the toughest part about this is that between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m., your eating window, you have to get in all of your necessary calories for the day. And for my gentlemen with high metabolisms, like my husband did this for a while, and he was trying to eat 2,800 calories between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. And that's really hard to do. Your meals have to be big. You have to have 3 big meals during that time with a couple snacks. If your metabolism isn't that of a 30-year-old CrossFit gym owner, then and you're only trying to eat, say, 15 to 1,800 calories, it makes it much more doable. But we have to make sure we're getting in all of our calories and enough fat, enough protein and enough complex carbs. Okay. If we don't and we undereat on a daily basis and we undereat repeatedly, you're not getting enough calories every single day, then what happens is your body drops your metabolism to meet the input. And so in our practice, we have what's called an in-body scanner. Many of you might be familiar with that. It does how much muscle mass you have, how much fat mass you have. It's like a little bit bulkier than your bathroom scale. You stand on it and you hold these handles, and in 30 seconds, it spits out a reading of what you're made of. Okay, how much water mass is in there, but most importantly, how much fat mass do you have, how much muscle mass do you have, what's your muscle mass distribution, right leg, right arm, left arm. Um, and then it estimates what's called your basal metabolic rate. It's essentially your metabolism. So how many calories would you burn if you just laid on the floor for 24 hours? All right, so the average female I see burns roughly, let's call it 1,300 calories if they were to lay on the floor for 24 hours and do nothing. Okay, so they need 1,300 calories every day to survive. Right? But nobody just lays on the floor all day. They get up, they go for a walk, maybe they go to the gym. They're burning calories throughout the day because they're moving. They're doing low-level physical activity, hopefully throughout the day. So, hang with me, don't let me lose you. Okay, so if we are eating below that basal metabolic rate, 1,300, we're going to go with that. Then what happens in your 8-hour window, say you can't get enough calories, you're not getting enough calories, your body starts to eat away at your muscle mass because that's what keeps your metabolism going. That's why you burn calories when you're doing nothing, because you have muscle mass that's burning energy, right? So a way to decrease our metabolism is to eat away at the muscle mass. So if we undereat repeatedly, our body's going to go after that muscle mass. So we have to make sure we're eating enough in that 8-hour window that we're not working against our goals and dropping our metabolism. We drop our metabolism as we age anyways, unless we're doing a really good job with our strength training routine, then we can keep it as high as possible, as long as possible. Yeah, that's why strength training, another reason it's so important. So we don't want to undereat here. So if you're having trouble following me or you want to do this, but you're not sure how many calories you need and what that looks like as far as your meals go and snacks go, that's why I'm a resource for you guys. Please, please, please reach out to me. I would love to help you figure that number out and what that looks like as far as food intake. Okay. So here's how it can look. We can fast through breakfast, have our first meal at 12, have a snack at 3, and then have our third meal at 7 p.m. We just have to make sure we're getting all those calories in. We have our last bite of food by 8 p.m., and then we do that 16-hour fast until 12 p.m. the next day. If it intimidates you to jump right into this is something that you want to do, but trying to fast until tomorrow at lunch feels impossible, stair-step your way into it. So if you're going to start tomorrow, maybe you don't eat breakfast until 8 a.m. and you do that for a couple of days. And then you go to, I'm not going to eat breakfast till 9 a.m. And you do that for a couple of days. And then the next 3 days, you're going to go to 10 a.m. See what I'm saying? Back it up each day or every 3 days until you get to 12 p.m. The other way you can do it is you can flip it. And this is hard because a lot of the things that we have in the evening are centered around family or social time. So trying to fast through the evening doesn't seem feasible for a lot of us. And please don't ruin your family dinner by saying I'm going to fast. If it works for your schedule, great. If not, don't do this one. You wake up in the morning, you have a big breakfast, you have a snack around 9, you have another meal at 11, that should be 11 a.m., excuse me, another meal by 1:30 p.m., and then all calories are done by 2 p.m., and then you don't eat again until the next morning at 6 a.m. So there's no eating in those evening hours. Again, that's not feasible for a lot of us. So if I'm talking to you and you feel like that's going to ruin your family meal, please don't do that. All right, so who can benefit from this intermittent fasting? It's almost anyone can. Obviously, if you're on medication or if you're struggling with health in any way, please talk to your provider before jumping right into this. But anybody, for the most part, can benefit from intermittent fasting. And it might be something you do for a month. And then next month you go to normal eating and then you cycle it on and off. You can do it that way. If you want to make sure that you specifically are doing it for the healthiest way for your own body and you want some oversight, again, reach out to me. I would love to help you. It's going to help you live longer, reduce your risk of diabetes, reduce your risk of triglycerides. So if these are things that are in your family or you've been warned by your doctor, hey, I really need you to pay attention to your triglycerides, consider intermittent fasting. Improve your brain function, decrease inflammation, improve your sleep when we're not trying to digest food all through the night. We can sleep better, helps reduce our risk of cancer. If you know that you have cancer in your family somewhere, this might be something to think about as well. Okay, so those are the 3 different types of fasting. Think about what might be beneficial for you. I do want to touch on the ketogenic diet because there is a fasting component here, and that's something that we're seeing a lot of or hearing a lot about is this ketogenic diet where we eat predominantly, get the majority of our calories from fat. Okay, so I want to touch on this, and then if you guys have any other eating styles that you want to hear about, please just put it in the Q&A and I can touch on them. But here we go. So if you're unfamiliar with the ketogenic diet, it's basically where we retrain our body to use healthy fats as your primary source of fuel. So when I was talking about intermittent fasting and we do that 16-hour fast, we actually are tapping into ketosis where our bodies are using fat as fuel. But then when we go to eat lunch, we tap out of that ketosis and we go back to burning carbs, unless we're going to have a really high fat meal. Okay, the ketogenic diet is designed to be burning fat 24/7. So you're always in that state of ketosis versus intermittent fasting where we're tapping into it and then we're out of it, and then we're in it, and then we're out of it. Okay, that's the primary difference here. The ketogenic diet is used for weight loss. It's used to decrease inflammation, improve cognitive function, prevent and reverse early Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. You guys might have heard me talk about my grandfather. He's 90 now. But about 3 years ago, he started with some cognitive decline, and I put him on the ketogenic diet for 3 months. And we tested him before, tested him after with the cognitive test called a MOCA, and he did great. There was no decrease in his cognitive impairment over those 3 months. It was really difficult for him to maintain this, and he was 87 at the time, and he's like, Michelle, listen, I want to eat the way that I want to eat. I'm 87. He's not 50 with early Alzheimer's. It was tough for him to maintain this style of eating. So, full disclaimer there, it does take some forethought and some planning. But he is my N=1 study of there was no cognitive decline during the time where he was in ketosis and doing the ketogenic diet, which is pretty cool. And then improve your metabolic flexibility, meaning you can burn fats for energy or carbs for energy, which is also a pretty cool tool to have. This is what your calorie intake looks like. The majority of your calories come from fat. Okay? 75% of your calories from healthy fat, 5% from carbs, 20% from protein. This forces your body to learn how to use fat as your primary source of energy. Okay? This is what an example day might look like. There's that fasting component. We don't eat anything in the morning to jumpstart your body into ketosis. Okay, so without giving your body any calories, we force our body to start burning our own fat as fuel. And then for lunch, we're going to give it a healthy fat filled meal so that we stay in ketosis. Grass-fed ground beef burger, no bun, topped with half an avocado, so healthy fat in the ground beef, healthy fat in the avocado, 1 cup of broccoli roasted in avocado oil, another healthy fat. Okay, snack, macadamia nuts, 5 Applegate pepperonis, so a high-fat snack. The pepperonis do have some protein in there. And then dinner, bacon-wrapped chicken thighs with roasted asparagus. Okay, I've seen this done in a really unhealthy way. Lots of pork rinds, lots of cheese, McDonald's burger with no bun. This is not what I'm saying. Okay, we want to implement those same principles that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation into the ketogenic diet. Whole real food, less ingredient list. Okay, the ingredient list should have few ingredients, right? So we can do this in a healthy way. If the ketogenic diet is something you're interested in, please reach out to me. I would love to help you. I have a meal plan that I can send you to get you started on the right track. Talk to your doctor before you do it, just to make sure it's right for you. Okay, recognize that the beginning might be tough. Your body is not used to burning fat as their primary source of fuel. Your primary source of fuel, unless you've done this before, is carbohydrates. Okay, so when your body is not getting any carbohydrates and all you're giving it is fat and it's not sure what you're asking it to do quite yet, you go through what's called the keto flu. You get the shakes, you're cranky. It almost feels like the flu-like symptoms, body aches, because your body is just really confused. It's really trying to build that mitochondria so that it can start using this fat for fuel. Okay. And then I recommend if you're going to do the ketogenic diet, make sure you're actually burning fat for fuel. So you can test your blood or your urine to make sure that you're doing that. You're looking for ketones essentially. And I can talk to you about what you can order, a little kit to make sure that you're using fat for energy. And then the fasting component is really important to help get you into ketosis, and then your food, high fat food choices, keep you there. I hope I'm not losing anybody here. All right, I know we're like running out of time. I could talk to you guys forever. And I want to have time for Q&A. We're in the middle of cold and flu season. You hear me right now. Our cold has ripped through our house. These are some of the things that we are doing to help support our immune system, and I want to pass them along to you. Supplements are huge. Really good quality supplements is really important. So I've put 3 brands on here. Thorne, Designs for Health, Pure Encapsulations. You can order them all online. You need quercetin, zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D. These are 4 supplements you can take from November to March. You can take them every day. And then if you do end up with a little cold like myself, up your vitamin C and up your vitamin D. Okay, that's going to help your immune system fight through it a little bit quicker. Sauna, if you have access to a sauna, get into a normal sauna routine. Get in that thing every day in the winter months. Okay, it's going to help support your immune system. Sleep. This is one thing I wish I was getting right now to help support my immune system. 8 to 9 hours per night. That might feel like a lot, but that is absolutely what your body needs. If you want to fight me on that, go watch Dr. Matthew Walker. He is the sleep expert. He is brilliant. He has all the research in the whole wide world as to why sleep is so important for our bodies. And then we want to be consuming foods that are high in beta carotene. This helps support our immune system. So we know things like citrus fruits, orange, we think about that with vitamin C, but there's others too. Spinach, carrots, mangoes, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, broccoli. Be incorporating those into your diet every day to support your immune system. You guys, I've just talked for I think 55 minutes straight. I want to hear from you. I forgot to tell you guys. So we are rebranding. My new email address is going to start coming out in your weekly newsletter, michelle@altitude-wellness.com. Really excited about the rebrand. We're going to be focusing on our corporate wellness side of the business. So moving away from the SweatNet name, moving into the Altitude Wellness name. My SweatNet email will still be active for the next year. So if you guys forget, or if you have friends that email me at the SweatNet email, just let them know I will still get it for the next year. But ideally, we want to transition you guys to my new email address, michelle@altitude-wellness.com. You'll be seeing that in the newsletter. Anyways, I'm done. Questions? Sorry, I went forever.
No, Michelle, that's awesome. You did a great job. We got about 8 or 9 questions, and I think David has 12 himself. So
No, I'm not gonna ask mine. I'll send that offline. Thanks, Michelle. That was great. Chris, we can just kind of go through these. I'll do the first one, and we can just kind of take turns.
Yep.
Client asks, when it's time for, can you speak to the issues surrounding arsenic and brown rice? Do you recommend incorporating white rice also?
That's a tough one. White rice is fine. There's just less fiber in it. So for those of you who don't know the difference between white rice and brown rice is white rice just with the shell still on it. Okay, so that's the fibrous part. So that's why it's going to break down more slowly and give you that longer lasting energy versus white rice. Most people, it breaks down a little bit quicker and gives you a spike in that blood sugar. But if you are worried about the arsenic, or if you know that you don't detoxify things very well, then stick with white rice or black rice. I have it here. It is also known as forbidden rice. Okay, that's honestly the best option. It's the most complex of all the rices, the most complex carbs, going to break down more slowly, give you the longest lasting energy. So again, it's called forbidden rice or black rice. So if you're worried about the arsenic, go with that.
Thank you tremendously. Another one is curious about fasting and pregnancy. It's hard to stop. Is that a hard stop? No go, for eating?
I would say it's a hard stop. I'm not a doctor, but I was just pregnant twice back to back, and it's almost nearly impossible for pregnant women to get enough calories in as is. especially if you're doing it in a healthy manner. You think about fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, a lot of things that aren't super calorie dense. So you're doing the best you can all through pregnancy to make sure you're feeding yourself and your baby enough. I would say no.
Okay. Do you recommend any combination of intermittent fasting and 24-hour fasting? I think you went over that in a couple of slides.
Yeah, I would. So if you're doing intermittent fasting already, or if you want to implement both of those, do the 24-hour fast once a week or once a month, and then just do on a day-to-day basis that intermittent fasting. So you're getting all of the benefits that fasting has to offer.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, David, I think the next one was also answered during the program. Any concerns with
I agree.
But I got a question here. It comes. This is pretty big for everyone else, I imagine. What is your opinion of the Ozempic approach? Do these people have the dietary guidelines to ensure essential fats, proteins, and carbs? Are there natural ways to curb appetite for those that get hungry during fasting? So there's probably 4 questions, but really, what is your idea of the Ozempic approach?
Okay, so I talked about that in-body scanner, right?
Mhm.
So that measures how much fat mass you have, how much muscle mass you have. So what we're seeing with the people that we're working with that are taking the weight loss medication is yes, they are losing weight. But you know what they're losing more than anything is muscle
So,
mass.
yeah.
So your body fat percentage, what percentage of your body is made up of fat? We are watching their body fat percentage go up, right? So they're proportionally getting fatter, unfortunately, while they're taking this medication because they're eating such few calories that their body is eating away at their muscle mass.
Because
So
it's restricting their appetite.
it's restricting your appetite. So basically, it slows gastric emptying. So your
Mhm.
food sits in your stomach longer. So for a lot of us, we have slow gastric emptying anyways. Our food just doesn't get out of our stomach that quickly. And so if that's you, and that's totally normal, then you're taking this medication on top of that and really slowing your gastric emptying. That's why we get the symptoms of nausea, vomiting, just really bad stomach pain, is because you're making the food just sit in your stomach for hours and hours and hours. Okay? Or there's food sitting in your stomach and then you're eating some more, and that's why you're regurgitating your food. So it really decreases the amount of calories that you're consuming, which is why you're losing weight, but you're mostly losing muscle mass. So I really encourage you, if you're going to take one of these medications, you have to get on a strength training program.
I was
You
going to ask if
have,
that was yeah.
you have
Yeah, I was
to.
going to ask if that was can you offset that with strength training to offset the loss of muscle mass?
It looks promising,
Okay.
but you got to get a trainer. You got to get somebody that knows what they're talking about and get you in the gym lifting heavy weights. Okay,
Yeah.
you can't go to Pure. I love my mom. She goes to Pure Bar like 5, 6, 7 days a week, but her 2-pound weights, that's not going to do it if you're
Right.
doing Ozempic. Okay, you have to get in the gym, get some supervision. Don't hurt yourself. You want to make sure you're doing it, moving correctly, lifting the correct amount of weight, but we got to offset the muscle mass that your body's gonna want to go after with as few calories as you're consuming. Did I
Awesome.
answer the question?
Yeah,
Yep.
you did.
Okay.
I think so. Thank
Next
you.
question. How do you feel about paleo
Love
diet?
it. That's actually how I eat. I'm a big paleo gal. I do eat some rice, and we eat bread occasionally in our house. But to me, paleo is primal. It's the way our bodies are biologically designed to eat. It is whole, real foods, right? Fruit, vegetable, nuts, seeds, eggs. Did I say meat? And then I don't do dairy. I'm a nursing mom, so I'm not doing dairy anyways, but I know that my body doesn't tolerate dairy well. 70% of the population doesn't tolerate dairy well, even though about 99% of the population eats it anyways. Um, I think paleo with some loose boundaries can be one of the best ways to support the body. Eating
Is
beans
that
every once
similar to Whole30? Is that kind of
Yes, very Whole30-esque. The only
Okay.
difference is that on Whole30 you can have green beans and white potatoes, and technically paleo you can't. I'm not a strict paleo person. I don't think that we have to eat that strict all the time. If we want to have beans sometimes, have some cheese sometimes, have some rice sometimes. But otherwise, I love when I go to look for a recipe or if I want to do a baked something, I put that word paleo in.
I noticed because I was trying to find a meal delivery plan like Factor or Trifecta, one of those for my dad, and some of them were grouping like Whole30 and paleo as one, and I hadn't seen that before, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much the same.
Okay.
Awesome. Question was, how do you feel about seed oils? Inflammatory or okay?
Seed oils, I would not do seed oils.
Mhm.
There's a lot of controversy out there about canola. Mark Hyman will tell you that organic canola oil in moderation isn't the worst thing for you, but I don't know how many of us are buying organic canola oil, and I know for sure the restaurants are not using it. Okay, so when we go out to eat, the majority of the time our food is cooked in canola oil or soybean oil. It's really hard to avoid. So in moderation, it's fine. But when we eat out a ton, or if we're eating out and at home, we're cooking with Pam, regular Pam, or we're baking with canola oil or vegetable oil, we're creating that inflammatory storm in our body. We need the omega 3s to balance out those omega 6s. Those seed oils are high in omega 6s, which are creating the inflammation in the body. So at home, do the best you can. Avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil at room temperature, even
Ghee?
butter and ghee are better options.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's about 4 more questions. We'll just hit them fairly quick. And then I think I got 1 or 2, but I know we're just a minute or 2 over, but I think it's valuable. So we should continue on with the questions. Go ahead, David.
Is the ketogenic diet generally not the best for someone who has high triglycerides and cholesterol? I guess because of all the meat and everything you're eating.
So you can, that's the tricky one. So I would say use your blood work if you have some blood work and you want to try the ketogenic diet. For some people, even with high cholesterol and high triglycerides, it works great, and it will bring your cholesterol down and it will drop your cholesterol. For other people, for whatever reason, genetically, it will create even more of an impact in a negative way in your cholesterol and triglycerides. So if you're under the healthcare of a practitioner and you want to try it to see which way it's going to throw those numbers for you, do 3 months. Use your blood work that you have now, do 3 months of the ketogenic diet, and then go back and get your blood work rechecked. Okay, same thing with the carnivore diet. We don't even have time to get into that, but some people are seeing a great response with cholesterol, blood pressure, they're losing weight. Other people, it's really throwing their numbers through the roof. And so just be under the care of a physician while you're doing that.
That makes sense. It makes a ton of sense. Just speaking on the keto diet for myself, 3 times in my life being in ketosis on purpose and diet, it is very difficult to get from your normal diet to ketosis. There's a period of time where you go, is this worth it? And then all of a sudden you emerge to the other side with a ketosis high, where you're like, oh my God, burning on fat is, you've got a very level of energy. So it's worthwhile, but it is hard to get to, just as an FYI. I'm just from.
True.
So this is another one question. I have multiple health issues and I just don't know where to start. Every time I feel my diet's healthy, I get slammed with horrible test results. How can you begin helping? I'm pretty sure that might be something that you just want to have the person reach out to you directly rather than the panel. That's a very ambiguous question. So I'm going to say the person who did that anonymously, reach out to Michelle on those 2 emails. Let's have you do it. It's going to be much more beneficial to you.
You didn't get the email.
I'll ask. Yeah, I'll ask the other one.
Or you could, go ahead. No, so you could email Chris or I if you're a client of ours.
Correct. Yeah.
Or you have her information, and definitely we could get you connected.
Yep. Or Thomas, we'll have you do that. If you were anonymous, I don't know who you were. But Zach from my team said, what are some of the ways, very quickly on this, what are some ways to track caloric, protein, fat, carbs? Any recommendation for apps or strategies?
I love MyFitnessPal. It's got the most preloaded foods in it that I've seen. I know there's some more that are emerging, and if you guys have a good experience with one, please let me know, because I'd love to be able to recommend more than just that one. But it's been around the longest, and it's got, if you scan almost any barcode, it will pop up in the app, and I think that's really user friendly.
Awesome.
One thing I did wanted to say is, you guys, nutrition is such an individual journey, and one of the best ways that I can help you is if you write down everything that you eat for 2 days and send it to me, and write down your goals. What are you sending this to me for? You want to lose weight, you want to not get Alzheimer's, you're going through chemotherapy, whatever it is, and then I can make personal recommendations to you based on what your current eating habits are.
Right.
I think this is said once too before, going along that line. In eating, diet, also in opinions, there is no the way. There is your way and there's others. Your body is so unique that you have to find your way. You can't say that this is great for everyone. Is that right? I think you may have said it.
Yeah.
And I've found out quickly, just personal experience and from talking with other people, sometimes going on one of these, these diets, going full keto or Whole30 or whatever, it can be intimidating. Sometimes for me, what's worked best is if it's like 1 year, I'm just like, I'm going to quit eating chips at 10 o'clock at night. And then the next year was like, I cut out soft drinks in 2014. It was one thing and I haven't had one since. So sometimes doing things like that and then working your way into one of these diets versus just jumping in, which can work for some people, but sometimes they fall off pretty quickly versus if you do these things slowly.
That's awesome.
All right, another question. You spoke about having your body mass tested, standing on something like a scale. What was that test and where can you get it done?
called the InBody scanner. And if you go to the InBody website, they have a locator and you can find one near you. A lot of times they're in a gym. They might be in an F45 or in a CrossFit gym. They might be in a weight loss center. But a lot of times, even like the CrossFit gym or the F45, they'll, if you don't want to join the gym, they'll still let you come and use their machine for a drop-in fee of like 20 or 25 bucks. So just reach out to them. They're normally very, very friendly and they can accommodate you if you just want to do the scan. And then if they don't go through the results with you and you have no idea what you're looking at, screenshot the results and send it to me and I'd be happy to go through your results with you.
Also, between scans, if you want to go full scan, I've got an InBody at home. It's a scale that's got the scanner. It doesn't give you all the massive detail of, ketogenic or of your metabolic process, but it does give you the distribution between fat and it gives you a light version. It is only couple $100, I think it is. Just FYI. Yeah. So there's one that you can have at home as well. So this one, we'll go through these the next four. There's one comment on here which says, I really love Noom. It seems to have the most foods I eat preloaded. That was just a comment from somebody, so we can let you know that. But I think that any natural appetite suppressants.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Not off the top. Fat is a really, any sort of healthy fat is going to keep you full longer. So it's not an appetite suppressant, so to speak, but it's going to not like simple carbs, things that break down really quickly, bread, pasta, anything that's full of sugar. That's the opposite of an appetite suppressant. It almost stimulates your appetite. You're going to be hungry in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You eat a bowl of cereal, you're hungry 45 minutes later. Eat things that are high in healthy fat, nuts, a handful of nuts, a scoop of peanut butter, a couple eggs, some guacamole. That's going to keep you full longer. So it's not necessarily an appetite suppressant. It's just going to not make you feel like you have to eat every 2 hours.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes I've heard like cinnamon. I mean, I don't know if that's true. There's no, the nice thing about this, you go and then look for some, you hear that from, oh, that's a good idea. Then you look for some resource to show you some actual results and they don't exist. So it's quite funny. Yeah.
Let's see. Any difference in intermittent fast and eating early? I think you did this one versus like eating early and stopping early versus late. And I think you kind of went through those two different options for intermittent fasting. How do protein shakes compare versus whole foods? What type of powder?
Mm-hmm.
Protein shakes can be a good source of protein. I would say one a day and no more than 20 grams of protein in the form of a liquid protein shake. Your body cannot absorb more than 20 grams of liquid protein at a time. So because it's liquid, it's going to go through your digestive tract rather quickly. Think about a steak. Your body has to work hard to digest a steak, right? You are getting all the protein out of that steak versus a protein shake. You drink it and it's down through your body rather quickly. So I work with a lot of gentlemen who say, oh, I'll have a protein shake and I'll do 2 scoops of protein. Okay, well, you're just excreting 1 whole scoop. So you're wasting your money essentially. So 1 scoop of protein, if it's 20 grams, that's all your body can absorb as it digests quickly. Okay, so I do think a protein shake can be good. I think the protein kind matters. Don't get anything that's sweetened artificially. No aspartame, no sucralose in your protein powder. Okay, and the protein powder should have very minimal ingredients. All right, I love the Earth Fed Muscle brand. They have a plant-based one and a whey-based one. So if you don't tolerate dairy, opt for the plant-based one. Okay, I love brand Sun Warrior, super clean. Those are the 2 that I recommend the most. If you want a pre-made protein shake, the Orgain are good. Anybody on this call who's drinking Premier Protein, please drink your last one and then don't ever buy it again. Orgain, they make pre-made protein shakes. Evolve pre-made protein shakes. Both of those are much better options for you.
And Orgain's at Costco as well. I've had it. Yeah, which is just anybody's wondering. So there's last 2 things. I'm gonna just go through super. One is I was told by a medical provider that women shouldn't fast because it messes with their hormones. Is there any truth to that?
Yes, there is some truth to that. So it really depends on your activity level, depends on where you are as far as menopause, or if you are still having a cycle. Reach out to me. We'll talk about it.
That's a good one.
Last question.
Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, Chris. Use EAA versus whey? ? What is EAA?
EAA? What does EAA stand for?
If you don't know,
I don't know. I think it's probably a plant-based
essential amino acid.
There you go.
Oh,
I would imagine those are two different
two different
things.
supplements. Yeah,
You
so
want
can
to
do
do both.
protein powder and you can take essential amino acids.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Great.
two statements or questions for myself. One is there's a whole thing about microplastics in your diet. So that's something for another, I think, program, because I know you talk a lot about it. But one big one, and this is probably for another program, but it's gut health. The width of what you're eating a lot of small amounts of like wide amounts of fruits and vegetables. It tends to be very gut beneficial and actually helps in weight reduction, all the things you're talking of. So there's another aspect, not just fasting, is also gut health, width of eating. I mean, we don't have to go through detail. Are those important as well?
Very important, and we could spend a whole nother hour on each of those topics. So I think we should.
Okay.
Talk
Well, I
about
love
that.
it. I think next one, let's explore that because I think it's so important to say, okay, great. Fasting is a piece. Fundamentally, a base could be. So, for instance, and this is just a quick comment. I have a miracle for anybody who'd like it, just in case. You can take it, use it, and it was stumbled on by me. I make soup now, and I make phenomenal soup, and it's the easiest thing I've ever done. I take organic bone broth of any kind. I take vegetables that are in the fridge that may go bad. I chop them all up. Maybe I try to get 8 to 9 or 10 kinds. I buy frozen organic vegetables as well. I put them in the broth. I put in garlic, organic. I put in some salt, pepper, and I let them all simmer for about 12 hours, maybe with some organic chicken if you're a meat eater. And my daughters and their friends have said this is the best soup they've ever had.
Okay.
Just FYI, very simple. And my question to you with that is, getting 8 or 9 vegetables frozen in that form directly, are those a great source of it as well or not?
Great. The goal should be 30 different types of plants per week.
Nice.
Goodness. All right, Chris, I'll be over at 6 for dinner.
All right. Yeah, you bet, David. I've got it. Okay. We'll see you there. Flights are ready.
Michelle, thank you. That was incredible. I mean, yeah, we're over time, but I mean, we could keep going. There's a lot of good feedback. So we'll do another one of these relatively soon. And to everybody listening, we'll try to get out a copy of the presentation as well that we can email out to you from each of our 3 offices. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
Michelle, thank you. Congratulations
Michelle.
as well. Your son and daughter are beautiful. I know your sleep deprivation will eventually move away as well. It'll be fine. You'll get past that. But I know you've got all the energy and you know what you need to do to pick yourself up during this time as well. But get all the sleep that you can. I agree with that. I know Matthew Walker and I also know Dr. Hyman. I've met both. They're super great with what they're doing. But more importantly for you, you are a wonderful wealth of knowledge. The way you present it, quickly, we have the answers. I got to just tell you, from our team and our clients, we absolutely love what you're doing for us, and thank you tremendously. We have immense gratitude for you.
You guys are so sweet. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thomas, thank you as well. Okay, enjoy. Everyone have a great day and go out and fast.